Good evening and welcome to our latest episode of Group Therapy with the Atlanta Falcons UK. Well, I think we kind of hoped tonight would be maybe not necessarily a turning point, but maybe a little bit of a glimmer of hope that this team aren't completely finished this season. Unfortunately, we're not here to say that. We are here to officially announce that the Atlanta Falcons have managed to um, come to the middle to two-thirds the way through another season, and we're staring down the barrel of looking at the draft again already. Maybe looking to enjoy the rest of the season as a neutral. Not much point in looking at who the first round picks are going to be either, guys, because we ain't got one of them either. So off the back of yesterday's next episode of the chain of awful results that we seem to keep churning out, with a 27-30 loss to the Carolina Panthers. A lot of talking points to get through tonight. And if you were hoping for, um, some glimmers of positivity, I suggest you maybe try another podcast because you're probably not going to get it. Uh, Chaps, good evening. Just before I start, I just want to welcome our guest. Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Willow. I've been on here before. The last time I came on here was a couple of years ago when we were talking about Arthur Smith potentially being fired. And 2 years later, we get to do the same again. So whenever I get the call, I know someone's getting canned. But no, this
Willow,
is
you are officially the Atlanta Falcons head coach, harbinger of doom.
this is the Grim Reaper. But no,
But thank you so much for thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much for popping on this evening to join us, especially in the absence of our glorious leader, Danny. Be good to get your thoughts on some of the talking points for this evening. Just before we do, we'll do a quick round robin of how we're all feeling, because that's what we do in group therapy. From the shower that we seen yesterday, and then we'll move on to some of the more talking points, and then I guess we've all got to get ready for hate week, right? It's going to be it's if teams could get relegated from the NFL, I think we would be looking at two prime contenders next week. So we're probably in for a draw. But before we move on to that, Liam, I'll come to you first. So thoughts on yesterday?
Just painful, really. No, probably maybe even the most painful loss so far. Certainly up there. Like during the game, my brother messaged me, like he's not a big NFL fan, really. Kind of just dips in and out and tends to just laugh at the Falcons if they like lose or whatever. And he sent me a screenshot where we were like 21-3 up, 21-7 up. Sorry, that we were up at one point. With like some surprised faces, like what is going on? You're winning. And I replied saying, "Oh well, the Panthers are terrible." And he said, "Well, aren't the Falcons terrible?" And I said, "Well, yes, but a little less terrible, and that's why we should be able to win today." And after the game, he corrected me. I don't think your analysis is correct. I think you're worse than the Panthers. And I said, "I agree. I think we are."
Certainly from a coaching standpoint, yeah. I think we're pretty much all aligned on that one, Liam.
Yep. But as a collective group, if you had the players and you had the coaches together, it looks like the Panthers are a better team than us. Certainly this year they are, because they beat us twice. We can't really argue against it. And if you had the net points together, it's definitely a spanking. So, I'll probably just say the same thing that I've said the last 2 weeks. We have a game plan. We look like we're okay. We get a lead. We're doing all right, and then the opposition makes adjustments, and then we go clueless. Like we do not know how to do counter any sort of adjustment to what we're doing. We just what we're doing the same. Obviously it's going against us because the Panthers, whatever, has worked out what they need to do and what they need to do to stop us. We just go, we're just going to plow on and just do the same things and carry on doing all game and see if it works at some point. And then we end up, teams come back and they beat us. And that's pretty much what's happened against the Colts. Like, obviously, they adjusted against us. Every team, like last 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, we've looked competitive for some of the game, and then they just got ahead of us, and we have no answers. And that is all on the fact that the coaches are inept at doing that mid-game. I just do not believe that they have any kind of creativity or strategy or plan B, C, D that you need against teams. I think they just have one practice defined game plan, and then they go from there. And if it doesn't work, we lose.
Yeah. Well, that'll be everything for this week. I think, Liam, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Carl, where I mean, you're always our little ray of sunshine. So, that's how are you feeling after yesterday?
Just the same as the last couple of weeks, really. Starting off so well again, 21-6-7 lead. Looked very comfortable, I'd say, but like what Liam said, they make changes and we don't know what we're doing after that. Bijan runs 94 yards in the first 2 quarters and then runs 10 yards in the second quarter or something like that. That's totally unacceptable. Absolutely ridiculous, to be fair. That's just one of many points that we could obviously make. It's just the same every week, and I don't think we're a bad team. I think that our team is pretty solid. I think everyone here would probably agree that we had the team on paper to reach the playoffs this year. Obviously, you got a couple of injuries here and there, but that happens every season with every team. Still think we had enough, but the coaches, like what Liam said, are completely inept. Don't know what they're doing, and it's not going to change. I don't think our plan's going to do anything at the moment, but what can you do about it apart from do this show every week and just be more depressed by the end of it?
Well, yes, we can all suffer together. I'm not gonna take too much time. I think I said last week that I'm not gonna spend a lot of time repeating myself. I think where I kind of felt like I was at was that certainly from a coaching standpoint, from a head coach to an OC, I was definitely out. I wasn't kind of 100% out on Ulbrich. And I still think there's some positives to the system he's running. I think our biggest weakness was in the secondary, and I think that secondary really, really cost us again this week. Certainly in overtime when you let Bryce throw a 50-yard bomb to effectively ice the game, before we'd even really touched the ball. I think my only change from last week to this is that I'm now of the opinion just fire them all. Maybe by the end of the season, it might just be, can we just like tear the stadium down brick by brick and maybe restart? I guess I'm going to echo your points rather than repeat them. As our guest, interested to hear. Have you got any different views from the boys? I mean, I can't imagine that you're against many points that you've heard so far, but interesting to hear another viewpoint from somebody who isn't part of group therapy every week.
No, this is as good as it gets, isn't it? I was incredibly impressed yesterday, man. It's bad. It's bad. I've been holding on to this little 3-game run all through the 5-game losing streak. This last week, this week, and next week have been the 3 that I've been. If we can just get those Panthers, Saints, Jets, 6-6 isn't great, but it's kind of where you want to be at that stage. That's obviously not possible now, and with more, we'll obviously talk about it later on in the show. A lot of injuries today effectively means that it is any small glimmer of hope that we had for playing meaningful football next month is over. I do want to kind of just raise the team. You are right about the team being good enough on paper, but only really in the starting sort of positions. This is a very, very shallow sort of team, and it's seen in the secondary, missing Mike Hughes and D. Alford, who I don't think are brilliant, but certainly leaps above Natrone Brooks, who had himself a pretty poor game in all parts of the field, and his performance ultimately cost us in the second half. They really talking about adjustments. They honed in on wherever he is, just throw at him. Whoever the receiver on him is guaranteed a catch. Big fumble at the start of the third quarter. Penix getting hurt obviously flipped things a lot. Cousins, how washed can he be? I mean, at this point he's more. I've got a T-shirt from sort of 3 or 4 years ago that's been shrunk in the wash, and that he is more washed than that T-shirt. It's just bleak, and we go into obviously this week against the Saints, and it's kind of like neither team has anything to play for other than the hate, and like we'll get up for it for sure. But really, I'm pleased that it's a later kickoff because I have a legitimate reason to turn it off because I've got work. But no, it sucks. This really does suck. I really hope that it'll be a bit better.
Yeah, and I think that I mean we could have easily have just put that as the show title as far as I'm concerned. Just this sucks. So I think that's certainly another nail hit on the head. Um, um, and I think you've raised a great point about the depth, and we did kind of touch on this at the beginning of the season and how important it was that we stayed healthy. And I think now, when we think about it, we've got a extremely patched together O line. Probably, patched together. Patched together is probably the best way we can describe it. We've now got Drake looking like he's going to miss some time, and of course, gentlemen, the the big one, which is probably the biggest killer of us all, is the news that Michael Penix now is on IR, which means he will miss at least the next 4 games. And I'm reading today that he's potentially suffered some damage to one of his ACLs. Now it's not an ACL tear, but obviously, as we know, Michael Penix has a history of those ACLs of his being surgically repaired. So, and actually, not to almost try and dig positives out of anything, but Penix was not playing bad in this game. He was 13 for 16, averaging 10 yards a throw, 175 yards. Again, another game, no INTs. And also took no sacks. So I definitely think for me, this one's quite the bitter pill to swallow, more than anything, because although we've talked repeatedly about scheme and how he should be playing a little bit more in the centre. We are the lowest in the NFL for playing QB players from under centre. I think that was the worst news yesterday for me, even on top of the loss. Any thoughts on Penix, Cal?
Yeah, he said. I think we had a bit of a discussion before that. Is he getting checked again? Like probably another professional opinion, but I feel like with the season sort of being over, like he's obviously going to be off for 4 games. Sounds bad, but I'd rather him just be off for all the season now. If you get what I mean, I don't want an injury, but like it's going to be a recurring thing. Like he's had many injuries in the past, which is obviously we knew that when we drafted him, so that was one of the problems we knew straight away. But obviously, hopefully, it's not as bad as we think, and he can just have the rest of the season off. And actually, when the season starts next year, in like the mini camp, etc., he's back fully fit. That could be one of the worries if it is more long term. Then, even though it might not affect him week 1 next year, it can still affect obviously the training part of it before in the summer, especially if we do have new coaches. Well, we all hope we have new coaches by then, but yeah, I think it's obviously a shame. I don't think there's obviously a lot of opinions on him. I think us three. I don't know what Willow's opinion is on him personally, but I think he's been pretty solid throughout the season. He's not perfect, but he's still second rookie year basically. Interceptions wise, very good to be fair. He's not too dangerous on the throws. Some of these picks, choices last week against the Colts, but I think that's been like every game. But I think he's generally been solid, and I think with a better offensive coach, he would flourish even more. So
Yeah, yeah, agreed. And I think if you just raised a great point there, and Will, I'm gonna bring you back into this conversation because I realise that we sit and talk about our views on these players, but be good to hear obviously in the wake of bad news. But what's been your assessment of Penix since he became a Falcon?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them where him being injured now is kind of an emblematic of how the Falcons have been the last 2 years. He's not supposed to be playing this year. The plan was always Kirk Cousins year 1, year 2. The way that his contract was structured was Penix steps in year 3 unless Cousins is falling out. Cousins was not good last year. He had fits and spells, got hurt, ultimately hurt the team, and Penix that whole process was sped up. So we're looking at Penix as somebody who has come in earlier than they wanted him to begin with, has played less than a season's worth of professional football. I think he's fine by and large. I think he's one of those where you can see why they like him. The arm talent is there. The accuracy is not 100%. No one's 100% obviously, but it's just not. Those intermediate throws are kind of concerning. And the biggest, not necessarily worry, the most frustrating thing for me wise is depending on how it goes in terms of his recovery. Even though the season's over, you want him to have these games to work through the mechanical stuff, the accuracy issues, trying to build some sort of relationship with Darnell Mooney. There's just nothing there right now, right? Casey Washington, David Sills. It's just kind of like you want to build something for next season, and that's been taken from him in addition to those players around him. So depending on where they go with it, some people are saying it's a full reconstruction. Obviously, the team aren't commenting on. They're getting a second opinion. So depending on which way they go with recovery, if he needs major surgery on his knee, that could push into the start of next season. And then we're looking at sort of October, November of next year before he even gets on the field. And then what are we looking at next year in terms of him getting comfortable?
Yeah,
it's a real tough spot for him as a player because not just like physically, but like mentally to have done this twice before and have got to go through it all again. I follow a lot of, this is where I get to do the woke shit. I follow a lot of women's football where ACLs happen every 20 minutes. And just the players that have had it done, talk about how tough that comeback is, and to have to do it again is it's brutal. That's brutal for him. I know the joke is he's an older quarterback, right? Like he's what 25, 26, so he's not like, but like he's still young. I'm telling myself he's young as a 33-year-old, but that's such a brutal thing to go through halfway through your second season. First full season, and I hope that he comes through. The lack of first round pick means they kind of have to have him come through next season.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk about coaches in a bit, but in a strange way, the injury to him might have saved Raheem Morris's job. Sorry to say, it's just kind of like tough for everyone involved. But I did like what I saw, and you're right to point out the lack of interceptions. Like these last 5 games has been clean in that regard. Yes, there's a lot that needs to be sort of sorted out, the red zone stuff and third downs were looking a lot better yesterday until the injury. He obviously wants to improve, and it sucks. But there's a player there, and hopefully we get to see the player. We'll see. It's tough. It's a tough situation.
Yeah, for sure. I think there is quite a lot flying around at the minute in terms of the extent of the injuries. So let's I think I speak for everybody in this room and in this fan base when we say, let's hope it's not as bad as some may have reported. Liam, just whilst we're on Penix, anything you want to
add? Well, I was going to bring up a comment that was interesting that we didn't mention last night about Zach Robinson's obsession with the pistol formation, which we do use by far more than any other team in the league. Like we use it on like 80% of our plays or something like that. Which there's nothing essentially wrong with the pistol formation, but from historical usage of that formation, the two sort of like biggest users of it were the 49ers with Colin Kaepernick and the Panthers with Cam Newton, and that was because they're incredibly mobile, run-heavy quarterbacks where they didn't go on the center because obviously that limits their ability to run because they have less time to do it, and then obviously shotgun them further back, so they used the pistol to allow run lanes essentially for mobile quarterbacks to use. Why are we using it with Michael Penix? The guy doesn't really run at all. Like, so what benefit are we gaining from using that formation around this team? I know it can help with the run game and things, but I feel like when you've got players like BJ and stuff, you can use standard formations outside of that and still get a massive benefit just because of the players that we've got and the O-line that we supposedly have. I just don't understand what Zach Robinson's doing, to be honest, with that approach. Like,
no,
why go down a quarterback run friendly formation and never run the quarterback? I'm not saying we should run him because we've seen obviously he has injury issues and he's got some speed, but he isn't we knew he was never a pure runner at all coming out of college. So why are we going with formations that suit this and that just against the norm of today's NFL? And we're not a creative team. We're not using it in a dynamic way. We're using it in a very standard way, which like I said, a very college way. But the college teams are using it because they've got quarterbacks who have one read and run approach because that's kind of where they're at in their career. We've got a quarterback now that should be beyond that, and we're still using the formation. And I think Richard said is Penix uncomfortable on the center. Physically maybe, but I think maybe he hasn't had much experience of on the center, but that's kind of what practice is for, and that's kind of what we've got a run game, we've got an obvious reason to have play action plays a lot because we have a massive run threat. Like teams know that we can run the ball like very effectively with the plays that we've got. So there will be that fear of running in play action. So they just continue to go with this pistol formation and we don't change. I know you can't just change your plays like in the middle of the season or whatever, but why did he ever think that was the right idea? I'm not sure, and I'm not sure that I think he probably regrets it right now, but hopefully he won't be here next season to adjust.
I do find it quite funny that Kirk Cousins came in the third quarter and the first play was him directly under center.
Yeah, because he's done it.
It's almost as if to say, see, kind of thing. Like,
yeah. And Kirk's obviously done it tons in his career, but that means we have the plays there. Yeah, we have the plays to use. We just don't want to put Penix under it. Like I don't, maybe he doesn't look comfortable doing it in practice or whatever. But he doesn't look, does he look comfortable in the pistol formation? I'm not sure either. I did say with Penix, I feel like he's a little bit like Kirk Cousins in the way that he's a very much a rhythm quarterback. I feel like when he gets into a flow, he reads the game much quicker. He looks more fluid in the way that he passes, and the ball comes out a lot quicker. I feel like he's one of them. As soon as you sort of put a bit of pressure on him and get him off balance, he does look like that's where he starts to sort of struggle, and the passes come out a little bit, softer than they were. Versus some quarterbacks who can just kind of power through that. And Kirk Cousins was a prime example of somebody who didn't. He was another one who, when you got him in a flow, very hard to stop. But as soon as you broke that, he became more volatile. And I feel like Penix is that style, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because when he's in that rhythm, they're very unplayable. But teams are sort of putting us off balance in many different areas, and we're just not. We don't know what we're doing anymore, and it's just that steady decline throughout the game where we just regress. Yeah. It happens every game.
Well, I think certainly from because I think it's easy to assume at this point that because we're talking about ACLs that it's like, right, well, that's him out for a year. Until we know, let's not jinx it too much. And let's hope that, and to Carl's point, and I think it's a great one, if he just sits out the rest of the season, rehabs and then gets back into training camp, then hopefully, that's kind of the best case scenario for us right now, I feel. I did touch on it, but it looks like Drake London's going to miss some time as well, although it is being reported that he looks like he has potentially avoided any major injury, which is good news, but he will miss the Saints game. And I think if you look at and it's been the same in the past couple of games, Drake's been by far and wide our go-to receiver. He got another 119 yards, averaged 17 yards a catch in this game. I mean, he's kind of, you would argue he's kind of becoming the guy that we kind of wanted him to become, just under really crap circumstances. Because actually, if he had a few more receivers around him that were able to catch the ball regularly, that would be nice. And also takes the pressure off him a little bit. So let's hope that Drake doesn't also have to swallow the fall game, but obviously we'll hear more about that in the week, I'm sure. But I think it's probably fair to say that he won't be there for the Saints game. Cool. I'm going to just to make sure that we don't go too much into repeating ourselves from last week. And I'm going to start with Willow because obviously you may well offer another insight or opinion that we might not have talked about, but I do have to come on to it, and I feel like it's probably going to be the theme of the rest of the season. But Raheem and the guys have got to be out now, right?
Yeah, you think so? I mean, it's been. Apologies if I'm digging up anything here, but Raheem isn't supposed to be that coach anyway. Like when that whole process began, I don't know how much of this has been talked about. Apologies if it hasn't before. They kind of honed it as we know at the time. Arthur Blank got himself obsessed with Bill Belichick as the next head coach. Got talked down from it by Fontenot and Rich McKay, everyone's mate, Rich McKay. He kind of ceded to them, and they began their own process. Spoke to a number of guys, kind of settled on Mike Vrabel as the guy that they wanted. But Mike Vrabel told them that Arthur Smith was going to be his head coach if he was hired, and his offensive coordinator if he was going to be hired in this cycle. Obviously, that's a no-go for the Falcons at that stage. They spoke to a couple of other offensive-minded coaches. I believe it was Bobby Slowick who was kind of spoken about really highly. That didn't kind of pan out. Obviously, Ben Johnson went back to the Lions, so Raheem was very much third or fourth choice in terms of who they want. So you're dealing with the guy that you kind of settled on to begin with. Now Raheem's like obviously, I don't think it's controversial for me to say, a really likable guy. He comes across as very charismatic. He talks well. He puts enough. I'm sure players love him, but clearly this is not a role that he's suited to. A lot of it was hinging on his ability to put together a top coaching team around him. I think I do remember a lot of us were quite excited about the prospect of Zach Robinson. when he was hired. That
Oh,
felt
really?
like quite a big get, but clearly it's a step too far for him at this stage. The Jimmy Lake thing and defensive coordinator had to course correct immediately.
Yeah.
Ulbrich, you said it before. I'm with you, Mark, in terms of the Ulbrich thing. I think his scheme is blitz all the time. The reason we're seeing so many sacks is because we're just sending everyone all the time, and that's going to affect the back end, especially with the lack of safety and secondary in general depth. But you feel like it should be the end. It's not the Arthur Blank style, I don't think, to do a mid-season firing. There were extenuating circumstances around Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitrov in 2020. I mean, you can't start 0-5 having started the previous season 1-9 or whatever,
Yeah.
and expect to sort of stick around. That they force themselves into that. So you would think that this is the end, and we're just kind of letting the season play out to keep sort of give them the best chance of landing a job next season somewhere else, I suppose. But this is not a great year to want a head coach. We are. If you're hoping that we're going to get a Clint Kubiak walk through the door, he's going to have offers from anywhere else, and he's going to take any other offer. I get comfortable with the idea of Mike McCarthy, I suppose, as the next Falcons head coach, because that's probably the direction it's going to have to go. Unless one of those, I think I tweeted earlier, unless you're looking at Stefanski or O'Connell or McDaniel or kind of any of those, Matt LaFleur, if any of those are leaving and you kind of push the boat or push your chips all in on those, you're looking at an also ran, and you're probably looking at your third or fourth choice, because this is not an attractive spot, I don't think, for a head coach prospect right now. And to go back to my point, that might have given Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot and his staff another year, because why would you want to settle when you can just see out? Granted, it sucks. See out a season next year, get a first-round pick, get some cap space again, and become a little bit more attractive to somebody a little bit more attractive. So not to be too down, we might not see any firings for a little while. If they lose, I mean, to be fair, if they lose every single game for the rest of the season, they've somehow got to sell those season tickets for next season. So that might just be pull the trigger kind of thing. But it might be the best thing for the long-term health of the franchise, unfortunately, to stick with what we have and let them suck for a year. So I look forward to coming on next year and talking about the head coaches next year. This is that's where I'm kind of at with it. I don't mind the idea, again, of Mike McCarthy. I think there was a bit of discourse around that earlier today. Some people saying that he would just go 10-7 every year, but like we're going 7-10 every year, so like that's got to be positive, right?
Funnily enough, well, I did actually tout the idea of Mike McCarthy. Imagine it was last week or the week before, and there were some chortles. But I think what you've brought to life there is actually the pool. I think people's kind of knee-jerk reaction they'll want LaFleur. I think that kind of feels like, especially because we love having ex-coaches that have supposedly gone somewhere and been successful. I'm not necessarily sure if you'd call LaFleur's time at Green Bay hugely successful, especially what we're seeing from him this season. But I actually I'm warming to Mike McCarthy now, just purely off the back of I just don't. I don't want to see this continue anymore. But I suppose, like, is there a conversation that says Raheem keeps his job but fires Zach Robinson? Like,
I definitely think there is. I think it's the same sort of conversation that they sort of had with Dan Quinn at the end of his year. Obviously, Sarkisian was fired after a pretty decent offensive season, from what I remember, and Dirk Cutter was brought in as a sort of to try and placate we need to do something different on offense, and that didn't go well. I can definitely see a scenario where they just kind of go, right, let's try and bring in someone a little bit more experienced offensive offensive coordinator side of things and go from there. It's kind of tough because I'm talking as I'm with you guys. I don't want to see this coaching staff here next season. I want to what I want more than anything actually is the whole lot to go blank down. Not so much blank. Obviously, he can't fire the owner, but from below him, just sweep it all out. McKay, Beadles, Dukes, the whole lot, and rebuild it from the ground up, like a brand new. Go all in on the new era kind of thing. We're going to get new uniforms. We're going to get new coaching staff. This is a new era for the Falcons, doing things differently. But they don't opt. But as someone who's been watching this Cal, you've been watching this for like 8 years, 9 years at this point. Liam and Mark, I know it's like, 20 years or something at this point. This is 16 for me. I know exactly how this team operates. They might get another season because it's only fair to give them 3 years, and that's just kind of how they operate. Fontenot might go, and then they just kind of go, right, well, we'll put the GM in and see where we are at the end of next season. But I'm kind of all over the place with it. But I prepare for all eventualities.
Yes,
it would be my advice. Expect every single thing that could possibly happen to happen, and the Falcons will make it happen somehow.
Yeah, I think, I just to touch on that kind of latter point. Again, a couple of weeks ago, I was kind of like, I'm not sure if I want Terry to go. And then I watched Kirk play yesterday, and I was like, oh no, that was you. So no, I'm kind of in on that too. And that's and I think you've raised some good points there, and I'm glad I'm not alone in my Mike McCarthy stance. Anything else to add on coaching? Carl, I'll start with you.
Not much. I think Willow said it perfectly. If you're going to start again completely, it's the perfect time to absolutely get rid of top to bottom. You bring I know it's only like you said, bring the new jerseys in next year. We're going to get new jerseys, but you are starting, and then fans will accept, like, we've still got obviously the cap space problem with Kirk next year, but then year after, then it does get a lot better. You just start again, but we like Willow said, that's not going to happen. We might get rid of Terry this year, might get rid of Raheem next year, and it's just like, I don't know. We're just fans, ain't we? And we obviously have different opinions to Arthur Blank, but we know how he's operated for the 25 years, 26 years been at the franchise. But I think if you asked all Falcons fans in the world, they would say just get rid of everyone and just start again, and they would accept I'd say a couple more years of shit, like a lot more. Maybe it would be probably a couple more years, but I think they would accept that he's starting completely again. We know Rich McKay is an issue. Everyone says he's an issue, but he's still there. So,
yeah,
where do we go from here? Like, I could agree. Like, we get rid of, like, we all agree Raheem should go and the rest of them should go. I think Terry should go with them. They can all catch the same flight if they want. But is anything going to change if McKay's still there all the time?
Well, I think to that point, there's part of me that says, like, don't get me wrong, McKay obviously meddles a lot. And let's not put too much into what Arthur Blank thinks, because as Willow alluded to, he wanted Bill Belichick, and that hasn't gone so well down in North Carolina and college. So I think that's kind of justified. But I go, like, if you get I don't. We see it all the time. It's not like we're devoid of talent, right? We need depth. We've talked about that, right, for sure. We're not devoid of talent. So would we have won more games if our offense were schemed better this season? My shotgun answer to that is yes. Yes, we would have. Would we have won more games if we'd just gone out and spent an extra bit of money on a kicker? Yes, we would have. We've already ascertained that because we've lost 2 games on kicks alone. So there is part of me that goes, if you overhaul that coaching staff with somebody who knows what they're doing and is a bit more dynamic on offense, then yeah, I would say, is anything going to change? Yeah, I think it could. I think it could. I'm not saying it will, but it's just very, very difficult because, as we've said all year this year, and for majority of some years previous, we keep beating ourselves, and we keep beating ourselves because, we seem to organizationally just keep making the wrong decisions. So I think that's definitely food for thought. I just want to, Liam, I don't know if you've got anything else you want to touch on, or if we've got any comments you want to bring up.
Um,
I'm
no,
sure
I mean,
I'm sure the conversation about coaching has prompted a few comments.
yeah, I mean, the main, I would have said, like you say, that I'd be nothing against the Mike McCarthy angle. I'd be more pro for the Matt LaFleur angle if available. Just on the fact he is a bit of a more of a creative mind, and whilst I think, like you say, he's not. It's hard to judge when what you look at as success. Obviously, like with the Packers, like he hasn't won them anything, but at the same time, obviously he's like made the playoffs like I think every season that he's been there, and I know he's lost like multiple championship games and sort of failed at those big tests and those final hurdles. But I mean, God, I'd love to be fair with at final hurdles. Love to be getting over the first hurdle.
Yeah.
So, if I'm worried about what can we get past the championship game is my main worry, then I'll take that.
You raise a very valid point. Sir.
So whilst I think you've got maybe the Packers have different ideas of success than we do. Yeah, they're like 6-3, whatever they are now, and like calling for his head. If we were 6-3, we have the right party right now. I'd have the brandy out one. So maybe we have different. But I mean, it's all about availability and how attractive we are as a prospect, really. And I mean, in terms of the comments, I think there was that one's a no go. We don't have the money or the interest to go a guy who can just lose one game every season or whatever it is and keep his job, get paid millions and millions of dollars to this big boiler pot of pressure environment where he might lose his job after a season. He's not going to leave that. And like these ones are the winning programs. They're not going to. It's very difficult to get them out because they get paid fortunes and they win every year and like easy life, isn't it? It's not an easy life.
You almost sounded a bit salty there with your Alabama cap on.
Well, you never know how they're going to do you? Because when we all know how like the college football system works, like you've got rosters that are consistently very good because they've got massive recruitment pipelines and massive investment, and it's very hard to judge how good the coaches are.
Yeah. Oh, we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot of coaches who were so well regarded in college. Matt Rule, that madman who went to the Jaguars, Urban Meyer. That was it. So there's certainly no surefire kind of answer, I think, for just going to get a college coach. I agree. But unfortunately, because we support a team that's in the same state as, probably the most consistently good to great college franchises. Yeah, I almost kind of feel like it's almost like it's too much of an easy trope for me when they talk about Kirby Smart. But not taking anything away from him, because at this point I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't say that.
That's true.
Any more comments we want to highlight?
I mean, there's a few, around the on the Arthur Blank blame train. I think I'm sure everybody's got some fault with the way things are. I'm sure Arthur Blank's obviously got some fault, and Terry probably has. Rich McKay certainly has over the years. you can only clear house so far. White's not by himself, I don't think. So, but we could get rid of everybody underneath, which I think would be a way to go. But it's a lot of change at once, which top teams don't tend to do. But it might be what we need at the same time. I certainly think Rich Mackay, would be a prime candidate for me to be going at this point in time. But we know that him and Blank are close, and he's Rich Mackay, whatever he is, the longest standing NFL executive at the moment, isn't he? He's been an NFL executive for 20 odd years or something. So he's got massive influence in the league and the organization. It's just very political heavy that he's probably in a nice crusty position no matter what, really. You have to take something disastrous. Nobody even talks about, obviously fans do, but we don't really hear any mention of him in a negative way from the organisation at all, really, do we?
Yeah.
So, we've got Terry, I don't know, done some good things, done some bad things. If you're going to judge him based on the results on the field, he's got to be a candidate to go as well, because I know it's not his responsibility through and through, but he's got a role to play, and ultimately we're not delivering on the field. So we've got to make changes. The only way you get fans behind you again is making changes. If we went into next season with a new head coach, different offensive coordinator, even defensive coordinator, doesn't mean we'll be good, but there'll be a buzz around the team again that something's different, something's new. Is it going to work? We'll find out. But you can't just carry on and stick with what we've got after what we've seen this season, last season. We're going nowhere. We plug holes. I feel like we're trying to just keep ticking along in this middle ground where we just plug a few holes every single season or lose a couple of others and just carry on with this same nothing approach where we're not the worst team in the league, which we're getting there sometimes, but we're also not we're not the best. We just do be quite a season. Yeah, we were okay again.
It's very difficult to be this bad for this long of a time consistent in a league where you kind of get a little bit of reward for being dreadful. To be consistently where we are is something that's quite a feat, to be fair. So credit to someone where credit is due. I do just want to say on Arthur Blank as an owner, I do think he cares. I don't think he's doing. At no point have I ever got the impression he's doing this just to keep whatever the cash flow going is, or to keep his mates happy or whatever. I do get the impression he legitimately wants to see his team win the Super Bowl. I just think he has his heart. I think he has his heart in the right place. I think he has his heart with the wrong people, or too much trust with the wrong people. And being trusting of someone is a fantastic trait. That is definitely being able to trust someone to run part of your business effectively, right? Is quite a thing. You'd rather that someone consistently like that Carolina had for the early sort of Tepe years, but unfortunately, that trust has kind of extended too far in some places, and again leads you to a position where in a league where priority is paramount, you are consistently 9-7, 7-9, or 7-10, or just always under 500 or just under, and there'll be some introspection on that, and I think I don't know how old Arthur Blank is at this point. I don't particularly want to get too morbid on it, but there will be a point where he kind of thinks, well, it's now or never. And then we will see what happens after that. But this is to respond directly to the comment. This is on him to an extent. It's on him because he put his trust in some people, and some people kind of let him down. That sucks. But I do legitimately think he's a good owner one of the better owners in the league. Just probably not from a sporting perspective.
No, I think, and I think that's a great point and a great maybe I guess a good pause for thought, because I make the joke quite a lot that like we're just the Southern Jets, like that's what we are, and and actually, you know, if you see how mental the guy who owns the Jets is, like I, I never listen to Arthur Blank speak and then just and think you're a moron. Like he's a family orientated dude, and I think you're right. He does want the franchise to do well, and he does want the franchise to win a Super Bowl. But I think that's a very very poignant point that you just made there, Will. Cool. Just to make sure that we don't go over time.
Wants it too much. I do believe he wants success for the team. 100%.
Yeah.
Like it's his fault because he wants it too much. Like, sorry. Like, yeah, okay. We'll agree to disagree there on whoever commented that. But I appreciate you for being here anyway. Just before we go into the segments, just want to ask a real quick fire question. I think the hit to cut Kirk next season is around 25 million. Do we do it? Yes or no? Liam.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So,
obviously, like we don't know what the whole what Penix is going to position he's going to be in. That's kind of a factor now.
But if Kirk's going to give us what Eastern Stick can give us, do we just cut our losses?
It's a good point. You know, I would have said like as a backup, like earlier on in the season, like if he would have been a very good backup to have. Like if he could play somewhere near the level that he's been playing at in the past, like, you know, I wouldn't be worried about going into a season where he could be a backup or he could play games and start or whatever, because like he would be classed as one of the best backups in the league. But what we've seen recently, I'm not really so sure that's the case anymore.
No. So you're no, Cal. You're a yes.
Yeah.
You're a yes, Kyle.
Yeah.
Cal.
Yeah, if you're going to save that much, I don't.
We're not gonna save it. We're gonna take a hit.
Yeah, you're gonna take the hit, but it works out, I think, overall better. Yeah,
we'll see.
We can get anyone else on the cheap doing the same job. I think if he came in and he's performed, like the thing is, if he now goes and performs for the next 7 games and actually thinks, well, but then it goes on depending on the Penix situation. I think a lot of it depends on the Penix situation. But for me, yeah, just get him out of Atlanta, and he can take Raheem with him as well.
Wow, that flight out of Atlanta,
playing out of it.
That flight out of Atlanta is going to be busy. Willow, cut.
Yes, take the hit. Build up. Let that cap space build up for 2027. Go and get, I don't know, Mac Jones for a year on a reasonable contract, and see if Penix can sort of perform halfway through the season. That's kind of where we're at as far as I'm concerned. I can't see Kirk Cousins being paid $40 million next season or whatever it is. I think this is it. He's auditioning for a job next season somewhere else. He's not going to be in Atlanta next year. We'll get someone else in and see where we are. So I think that's nailed on.
Go get Flacco.
He's been everywhere else.
Dude's like 58 years old, and he can still throw a 4-touchdown game. That is crazy. I'm Team Flacco for next season. Cool. I just wanted to quickly quick fire that one, because I think it's an interesting point that we will probably end up speaking about certainly in the off season. So interesting. Is there any more points? I think I'm not going to go too heavy into hate week because both teams are awful. And I think with our situation now around injuries, next week is going to be a long one. I'm going to be up for it because we hate the Saints, and they hate us. And sometimes, that just means that all form goes out the window. I think it is going to be an awful game of football. If I'm 100% honest, I think they're and I'm expecting that from both teams. So it's like I think the only thing that maybe gives me some faith that we might come out of hate week happy is that they might be potentially more awful than we are. But to Liam's earlier point, we thought that about the Panthers.
Yeah, I did.
And so, any points anybody wants to raise around what we've just finished talking about, or hate week?
This is where it all went wrong last season, isn't it? Like the Saints game last season was where Kirk Cousins got his elbow hit and the losing streak began, right? So in terms of sports poetry, Kirk Cousins going back to the site where it all went wrong to redeem his name, to turn the Falcons season around. I can't think of anything better. So there's something to look out for, I suppose.
Yeah.
We were in pretty much the same position against the Dolphins, and we did absolutely nothing offensively. So, also, they're always up for it. I've never seen a team get up for one game more than the Saints do against us, and I despise them for constantly doing it.
Yeah.
It means so much. Like there is legitimate hate between the two teams and the two fan bases to an ugly degree, and the fact that they're always more up for it, regardless of their situation, than we are, really irks me. So if Raheem's got anything about him, he's just drilling that into David Sills so he can have the game of his life. If I'm not seeing 150 yards from David Sills, something has gone wrong on Sunday night.
You don't have to get 15 to have the game of his life, I think.
I think Felipe Franks is about to have the game of his life. That's you heard it here first. Felipe Franks and David Sills are going to be fantasy standout contenders this week. Do we think Algier will have a bigger role next week and use Bijan as more of a receiver? It is quite possible. I think that's and I don't hate it. I don't hate it mainly because I think they'll be targeting Bijan to try and get him out of the game. So I think with that O-line right now, I would much rather see Bijan lined up in the slot or in or wide out, because then they can. Because they're a dirty team. They always have been. They're always infinitely more dirty on 8 week. So yeah, I think that is a fair point, well made, and likely chaps will see the exact opposite. So but, because it makes sense. That's why we'll see it. And something came in my head when you said that about Willow, like Kirk Cousins going back to the spot where it all went wrong, and it had a bit of a Game of Thrones feel about it. Speaking of Thrones.
Oh God.
It's time for Rookie Watch. Run the clip.
I'm not ready with the clip. We wait for a clip.
That was such a good
I'm ready
idea.
with the clip. I'm ready with the clip. The phone is ready. I was too busy holding my head in my hands.
It's time for Rookie Watch.
Wow. Well, I feel like it pains to talk about stuff like the Falcons in general, but as I've said a couple of weeks in a row at least, the rookies they're a good point of the team, which is a good thing to have. Like when your younger players are sort of like they're your future and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to have as a team, is that your younger players are the ones that are sort of shining, and that's the case for us. I think during the commentary, it was we've all been saying, I think I said it actually last week, that Xavier Watts has been a player that I felt looked quite very polished and very like he'd been in the league for several years. And I think in the commentary during the Panthers game, I think I can't remember who said it, but they basically said the exact same thing, that he just looks, a very professional, very well-rounded player who's just looks like he's just belongs in that role, in that position, and 100% agree. He's very consistent, like pretty much like every single week. And again, Jalen Walker, James Pierce Jr., there's a lot of talk about them picks and what we were sort of getting, especially obviously trading back in for James Pierce Jr. He does look like a good player. We've this part's even worse to say, is that we look like we've addressed the pass rush, but we still suck. Like, I'm really happy that we went and got players who can rush the quarterback. We're getting consistent sacks, which we've not had for a long time. The young players doing it. We look like we've got, we're there with what we've drafted in this year, and then something else has gone wrong that has completely derailed us, which is just incredibly frustrating because it's what all the fans have been asking for many years. Like, we felt if we sort the pass rush, we get pressure on the quarterback, we'll be a good team. That turns out that wasn't true, but we're used to disappointment over here. So yeah. Go on, Mark. You gonna say something?
No, sorry, I don't know if my mic picked something up. Apologies.
Maybe you farted. Billy Bowman got a sack.
He
I
did.
think everyone could see that.
He rocked him as well, didn't he?
He really did.
That was brutal.
Yeah, Billy Bowman got a sack. We've said he was kind of one that obviously he was a bit on the fence to whether he was a success or not. But he's doing a few things here and there. He was a mid-round pick, whatever he was, so you can't expect the world anyway. So I'm quite happy with where he's going, really. I guess while we've got Willow on, let's get we'll get a rookie roundup from you. How do you think they're performing this season in general?
Yeah, this has probably been the best sort of immediate impact from a rookie class of the Fontenot era, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we had the year one was kind of Carl Pitts and nothing else. Year two was Drake London and Tyler Algier. Obviously, Riddle was part of that one. That's neither here nor there. But it's always kind of felt like you get 1, 2. This year, it feels like we're getting some. Well, I mean, they're all playing. But Bowman obviously had some injuries and missed a few games, and that's, I think, again another issue in the cornerback department. But Watts especially, I've been immensely impressed by. Him and Bates at the back end is really nice. Obviously, we're not getting on to Jesse Bates. That's a win. Those two up front are so fun. Jalen Walker, especially over the last 3 or 4 games, has properly stepped up. I was super impressed with him in Berlin as that kind of. I just wish they sort of stopped dropping him. I know that the part of the scheme is that not everyone goes all at once, but I wish that they should stop dropping them into coverage so often. Pierce is the problem that we're going to have with Pierce is I think he's a perfectly good pass rush at the moment. I think he has the scope to be really good, but he's always going to be tied into that trade. So depending on where we finish this season, for the rest of his career, you're going to have people asking whether or not he was worth a top 10 draft pick, for example. And that's not a fair position to put him in because that's not where we took him. What we're going to is he not the highest, got the most sacks from any rookie this year? Am I right in saying that? It's certainly up. I mean, I play him more, play him more, play Walker more, get him sort of going after him because I really like what I see from the pair of them. It's a really nice class this year, and again, one of the things that might keep someone in a job. But it's nice to have that for a change and not nothing. If that, just some sort of production is a nice change. They've done well this year. I'm pleased with what we've got.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, Yeah, we're inclined to agree with that. They've been a positive on the show for the last few weeks in particular, but pretty much the whole season. So we're quite happy with what we've got this season. We just hope we can sort of build around them. I've got a from when we did show. I also do another rookie pick from around the league who's sort of been good for a consistent basis. I tend to pick ones in different positions just to fill out a bit of a roster of rookies. And I'm going to pick a player this week because I'm going to pick an all lineman because I don't think I've picked one so far. And he plays for the Jets, which you don't get many players that play for the Jets getting picked. So I'm picking Armand Membu, the tackle that the Jets took, who I know this is saying a whole lot, but he is shining and standing out at the Jets in and amongst players who don't tend to do that. So it is very difficult, but he has been consistently very good. His grades are always very high. He's obviously got a difficult task because the whole team kind of is poor. And he's been, I did a bit of research on what sort of like the Jets fans think of him, and they've been very impressed with him and how he's performing. And he's been basically like the star player, which isn't great when you sort of focused in on the offensive lineman as your most noticeably star player. But that's kind of where they're at, I guess. So yeah, he's my pick. I think he's a very, very good tackle. It's hard to come in and play tackle as a rookie. Like I always think that offensive line, like you don't go up against guys of that quality week in, week out in college. Like a few weeks of the year, you come up against a good pass rusher. The rest of the time, you come up against guys that are probably not going to make the NFL at all. So you're going up against guys like every single week that are trying to test pass rushers, and it's just difficult to step into that as a rookie, especially a rookie on a bad team. And he's managed to do that with good success this year, and so he's my pick for the week. So
love those big boys in the trenches.
Yeah, big boys in the trenches, and that was this week's Rookie Watch.
Amazing.
What a graphic that is.
Liam there on his on his happy
Yeah.
Right, well, I'll move on to my segment, and it's going to be controversial, especially
my favorite kind of version.
Especially for a certain cohort of college fans. So I look forward to the abuse I'm going to receive for this one. Liam, roll the clip. It's time for Fraud Watch. The jingle changes every week. So this week we are adding tight end 1 to the Fraud Watch roster. Now, there are going to be people that say, oh, yeah, but he's not being used. Pete Carroll hasn't got it anymore. This week, Brock Bowers is officially being added to the Fraud Watch roster.
Wow, that is...
The Las Vegas Raiders are 2-7. Brock Bowers has 3 touchdowns on the air. All 3 touchdowns came against the Jacksonville Jaguars. His highest game this year has been 127 yards against the aforementioned Jaguars. They've played Chicago. He had 46 yards. They've played Washington. He had 38 yards. They played New England, the game that they won, and he managed to get over the 100-yard mark. Now, I'm no Georgia fan, and I know that he was a great player, and he actually had a really, really good debut season. But I am predicting that this is the beginning of the end for a superstar tight, or somebody who is pegged as a superstar tight end. So Brock Bowers, you are now officially on Fraud Watch in the tight end 1 position.
Wow.
Talk to me.
Has he not been injured?
No.
Did he not miss like a whole month or something? No?
No.
Maybe he just went missing. I think
Let's have a
he
look.
probably has missed some games, but he I think
he played
well.
four games in September. I think he might have been injured for a couple of weeks.
I think
Still shocking. Still shocking results though for a guy who was a really high pick.
I think that you make a very interesting case there, and I'm not going to disagree with you for the simple fact that I've also seen a superstar tight end one go through issues at quarterback to derail their entire career. So I think you might be onto something. And I think that says more about Geno Smith than anything else.
Yes. and the thing is, Willow, at the end of the season, we will have a review and we will have a little look and see if I need to eat humble pie on any of these picks. But thus far, the Fraud Ward roster is still looking honking.
Only because half of them are from the Falcons, so they're gonna be.
That's very true. That's very true. More from a coaching perspective than anything else. But but yes, that Fraud Watch roster is it's not looking pretty, boys. It's still there's not many of those players making a resurgence. Let me tell you that. And that is tonight's episode of Fraud Watch. That was Fraud Watch. Awesome.
Lovely. I love the Fraud Watch.
Cool. We will take this moment for a little whip round of any other points from this weekend's mad NFL season continuing. Has anybody got any takeaways, any points that they want to raise, to laugh at, to discuss? I've certainly got one, but I'll hold it.
Yeah, I've got one as well.
Go on then.
Well, it's just a result more than anything else, but the Jaguars annihilating the Chargers.
Unexpected, right?
Like when you look at the Jaguars like stats and stuff, it's like, what did he do? Like because like Lawrence like calling complete about 13 passes or something like that. But so that's what I always try to watch back all the highlights of all the games. That's what I've not actually got to yet. Seeing what happened, but from a result perspective, like I know the Chargers have been up and down and not consistent or anything, but like I didn't expect them to get beaten that badly by the Jags.
Yeah, as well. Cool. Cal?
Not well. It's a mental season, isn't it? Obviously, the Lions got beat last night against the Eagles, which is can be expected. The Rams.
Some questionable calls in that game, though, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Dodgy at the end, for sure. Yeah.
I think it was like the Chiefs of the last 5 years with the referees on the side, weren't it? It's like the Eagles are the new favourite team, which is annoying because I absolutely hate the Eagles. The Rams look very, very good. I think the Seahawks are still looking very good. I think that's going to be obviously, I think they've still got to play each other again. I think they've only played each other once, might be wrong, but I think that could be another playoff game, another divisional playoff game. Broncos winning again, beating the Chiefs. Broncos are still the most bonkers side I think watched all year. Like the 9-8-2, I think.
8-2.
Yeah.
Some of the results are mental, but their defense is obviously doing what it needs to do. Bo Nix is popping up and down, but he's winning games at the moment, so you can't really say too much bad about him.
Very hard to find some consistency anywhere, really, at the moment, isn't it?
Definitely. But it's fun, like fun neutral. If this was your first year getting into the NFL, it's probably absolutely perfect because it's But yeah, it's good to see. Obviously, we're shit, so it don't really make much difference. Saints didn't play. Bucks lost, which was obviously good to see. But I think they obviously won the division. Well, that's fair.
40 bomb dropped on them from the Bills, though. That's
considering we beat
Josh Allen did run wild.
But But yeah, it's another good weekend of football, apart from obviously ours, but very entertaining. Very entertaining.
Willow, any takeaways or anything on your mind from this weekend?
Yeah, I'll give you one thing. So I watched the Madrid game on Sunday sort of afternoon. The thing that winds me up about the European games is that they always send the American commentators, and they always decide that they want to have a word about how much the European fans love kicking because of football. And it's like, come on, we're 20 years into this now. We're more than just kicking. Unfortunately, I'm going to undo all of that by saying Ethan Evans, punter for the Rams, kicked the best punt I have ever seen yesterday. He dropped it at the 1 yard line and bounced out of bounds. It was incredible. And it was like the Seahawks got the ball to start what would have been their game-winning drive, and they just couldn't get going because they were stuck at the 1 yard. I do a thing, self-promotion time. I do a column for the touchdown.co.uk every Wednesday. I do 5 things that you may have seen. That's one of the things this week. Ethan Evans, punt into the 1 yard line, the best punt I've ever seen. Beautiful. If Bradley Piggy do that at least once a season, I'd be a happy man. There I am undoing 20 years of international outreach from the NFL. That man can kick. What a boot on that man.
Great. I'm gonna have to watch it. I mean, I've not seen this.
Beautiful.
Liam is heading straight to YouTube to watch that.
Yeah. I can't wait. I love a good punt.
That's amazing. I love that. I have one little point of order that I'd like to share with you all. I was not quiet about my opinion about a certain quarterback that was projected to go high in the draft, then didn't. And everyone has felt so aggrieved by the fact that Dylan Gabriel has somehow managed to keep Shedeur Sanders on the bench. And this weekend, gentlemen and ladies across the world who are watching, we found out why. We found out why because Shedeur Sanders is exactly who I said he was. He was a okay quarterback who's got a very famous daddy who played in a okay team in a lower tier school, who never really played anybody, never really beat anybody, had his jersey retired and all of that absolute utter tripe. And he got his chance yesterday. And can we, if you wouldn't mind, if you could humour me, let me tell you the stats of Shedeur Sanders yesterday against the Baltimore Ravens, whose defense have not been great this season. Tell you why I know that, because they're on football watch. He attempted 16 passes, 4 of those completed. He managed to throw for 47 yards. He had an average of 2.9. He threw 1 interception and was sacked twice. Now, I'm not one for being smug. I am. And when I tell you all that I am as smug as possibly can be, that this utter fraud has been outed, I couldn't even put him on fraud watch because he was so deep down the depth chart. I didn't actually think that we would get a chance to see how fraudulent he is. But we've seen it. The discussion's over. Shedeur Sanders is not an NFL caliber quarterback. I realise he's playing on the Browns. I get that. But if Dylan Gabriel is making you look more ass cheeks than you are, that is because you are not an NFL quarterback. And thank you.
I do feel a little bit bad for Dylan Gabriel because as he's being checked for a concussion, Sanders is coming on to like the biggest cheer that Cleveland has had in years. And he's just dozing around. It's like, how's that fair? How's that right?
But he almost danced onto the field to complete 4 passes through 1 INT and get put on his back twice. Like guys, come on. Like, and don't get me wrong, Dion was a great player, amazing player. And I like cocky people who are good at what they do because they can back it up. But the nostalgia factor for Deion Sanders, we've got to come back to earth now, guys. He had two sons that came into the NFL. One has proved he's a fraud, and the other one didn't get picked up by anybody. Like, it's enough. It's done. Like, so yeah, there you are. That's my moment of satisfaction from this weekend. I took more satisfaction seeing those stats than I did watching all of the highlights from our game. So, cool. Any more comments, Liam, before we close out?
No, I kind of I should have anticipated that one was coming. You need to watch it. It's even better.
What?
Watch. Did you watch Sanders do those things?
Oh, I mean,
highly recommend watching it if you because it was as bad. It was as bad.
Oh,
as
have I seen his overperformance? Yeah. Not all of it.
Go and treat yourself.
I watched a video of him come on to like massive fanfare, and then the next kind of the video cut to then him on his back and his stats underneath it, and it was a glorious moment. But I will take great delight in watching that.
You enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, guys, I think it's time that we bring group therapy to an end. And we just want to thank everybody for coming in. We especially want to thank Willow for joining us. And I know you did a shameless plug, but if the people didn't catch it, Willow, do you want to do one more shameless plug before we close out?
Yeah, I would love to. So the touchdown.co.uk, there are loads of really good writers there, college and NFL. I'm one of them. So I do a thing every Wednesday. We've got guys we have guys at the Madrid game, obviously at the weekend. College coverage is incredible. I don't watch college football at all, but I know that I can pass off their knowledge at secondhand and trust that people will think that I know what I'm talking about. So follow them. They are incredible. Willow290592 on Twitter if you want to follow me. Very sad at the moment. This whole Falcons thing has got me super sad. I got pulled up on it over dinner earlier. My girlfriend said, "You tweet like you've had a mental breakdown every time the Falcons lose, and it's every week." I've been asked to stop watching. We may have to switch to Red Zone full time. So yeah, that's where we're at. So yeah, but mainly the touchdown.co.uk. It's not my site; it's someone else's, but they let me write on it, and they get me into places. So I can't. I've got to do my bit. So yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us and standing in for Danny whilst he's away sunning himself in Thailand. He must be having a really interesting holiday because I watched a video of him walking through mud earlier on. I'm still not quite sure why that was a post, but I will probably have flashbacks to it when I watch Kirk Cousins try to move around the pocket next week. So on that note, just so everyone's aware, if you are new here, we broadcast this podcast on all social media networks, and we also are available in audio format. I'm going to do my normal outro and hope my mic doesn't break out. We can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. I take it by the shake of the head. It didn't work.
In and out again. In and out.
Little bit of it was still audible. Right.
I took a really deep breath there, and then as soon as Cal started shaking his head, I stopped doing it. Thank you all for joining us for this week's group therapy. We will be back next week for Hate Week, and thank you all for your support. And there will be better times to come. They are just not now.
God, we'll end it there.
Thanks, guys.